heights, the happiness, the joys of victory are hers. When Gaby Kennard came home from her round-the-world solo flight, the Australian people applauded her courage and joined in the celebration of her victory. Through her love of flying, Gaby felt an affinity with Amelia Earhart, the American pioneer aviator who disappeared during the last stages of her 1937 attempt to fly around the world. Gaby decided she would complete Amelia's flight and become the first Australian woman to fly solo around the world. She didn't have the resources to afford a twin-engined aircraft, so, against the advice of all the experts, she decided on a single-engined, 8-year-old Piper Saratoga.
A single-engine aircraft around the world compared with this thing, a quantum leap higher. One of the things with this aircraft is that we can lose one engine, keep going, we can lose two engines and keep going. It flies very well on two. In a single-engine aircraft, if the engine stops, there's only one way you go, and that's down.
The television program 60 Minutes picked up her story, and Gaby Kennard and her solo flight became known to many people.
It frightens me a lot more, in a way, the thought of not coming back because of my kids.
60 Minutes fitted her plane with cameras to record her flight. Qantas, Australia's international carrier, gave her invaluable support. They helped with logistical assistance, which included planning her 6-week flight and to gain clearances for the many countries in which she'd have to land. She took off from Sydney's Bankstown Airport on the most important journey of her life.
I sincerely hope she makes it, but I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm not a betting man.
The first leg of her journey took her to Cairns, and the first opportunity to really check her instruments. And the first shock. The Omega navigation system was not working.
And of course a few of my instruments aren't working either, which made me feel a little bit uptight, but anyway.
Gaby flew from Cairns to Port Moresby, and from there she negotiated the infamous Kokoda Gap to Lae.
I've just gone past the Kokoda Gap, and now I'm tracking out to the coast.
At Lae, Gaby picked up Amelia Earhart's flight path for the first time. Gaby's navigation skill proved itself when she made a safe landing at Majuro on the Marshall Islands. As she took off heading for Honolulu, Gaby didn't realize that she was about to experience one of life's ironies, which had a strange parallel to Amelia falling into the hands of the Japanese.
This is gut-wrenching stuff, I can tell you. I can hardly see anything.
Strong headwinds buffeted her plane, causing her to use up precious reserves of fuel and seriously jeopardizing her reaching her goal. She thought she might have to ditch in the sea, until she remembered that Johnson Island, a restricted American military base, was on her path. Fortunately for Gaby, a friendly ally.
16 days after leaving Australia, Sydney pilot and mother of two, Gaby Kennard, has arrived safely in Hawaii after the most dangerous leg of her world solo flight. She almost didn't make it across the Pacific. With fuel running low, she was forced to land at a top-secret US airbase.
Gaby headed out from Honolulu into the approaching night, eagerly looking forward to her arrival in Oakland the next morning. She didn't know what the night held in store for her. As the fuel from the main tank was used up, she switched over to the auxiliary tanks. Within seconds, the engine cut out, and the plane plummeted 1,000 feet. She switched on the booster fuel pump, reset the fuel selector to the main tanks, and the engine caught. She leveled the plane, hopeful the problem had fixed itself. That was not the case, and each time she selected a reserve tank, the engine cut out. It was proving to be the most harrowing night of Gaby's life. Eventually, Gaby found a switching sequence that worked, and as she headed out of the night, the rising sun became a shining beacon, heralding the end of a major test and the beginning of a new day.
God. Anyway, this is the sunrise, the sun just peeping up over the horizon, and we're about 5 hours out of Oakland. And I know now that I've got enough fuel, so everything's hunky-dory.
As she landed at Oakland Airport, she was shaking. Only a few hours before, she didn't think she would see land again.
Hi guys, here we are, and I'm heading for Memphis, Tennessee, home of Elvis Presley and Gracelands. So I'm going to visit Gracelands when I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm also going to get my Amiga fixed up, which is going to be real good.
From Memphis, Gaby skirted the Bermuda Triangle, heading for Brazil in South America. Brazil was her first encounter with a non-English speaking culture. Gaby's efforts to satisfy the airport authorities soon developed into a complete farce when she discovered that her visa for Brazil had expired.
Well, the best thing to do, just close aircraft, take a taxi, after 2 o'clock, 2 p.m., go to the Federal Police, to the office, and they will give you 90 days more.
Gaby's plane was due for its first major service since leaving Australia, which was just as well as a serious leak was discovered in the plane's hydraulic system. Gaby flew to an Air Force base at Natal, the most easterly point to Africa. With her plane heading northeast to Africa, Gaby settled herself for her last important water crossing. As Gaby flew into the approaching night, the cloud build-up became more ominous. Without warning, she found herself in the middle of an intense thunderstorm. Lightning flashed all around her.
And it was striking all around me, and my electrical system was playing up. I mean, I could tell that things were going mad. My Amiga system went off the air repeatedly to the point where it just completely went off.
At last, she flew out of the storm, and with the electrics back on, Gaby corrected her course for her landing at Dakar. Gaby flew north up the African coast and then east across the Mediterranean. Only mild irritations bothered her as she navigated her way to Crete, Cairo, Luxor, across the deserts of Saudi Arabia to Bahrain, over the Arabian Sea, across the Indian subcontinent to Phuket in Thailand.
After 3 long months, Gaby Kennard is in the final leg of her solo flight around the world. The 45-year-old Sydney mother left Singapore a few hours ago after a much-needed stopover for fuel and repairs. She is now somewhere over the Indian Ocean, en route to a brief stopover in Bali, then on to Darwin tomorrow.
At last it came, the moment Gaby had been waiting for. She could see the Australian coast. What a joy to see her homeland again and to hear the familiar sounds of Australian voices.
Welcome back, Gaby. Thank you very much. You're welcome home.
Gaby's flight path took her through central Australia to Alice Springs and on to the western New South Wales town of Parkes. Her epic journey had become headlines around Australia. The media coverage was so extensive that her children were flown to Parkes for her to have some time with them before the celebrations planned to take place on her arrival in Sydney. Her plane came into Bankstown Airport for her 39th and final touchdown. Gaby had set out expecting to complete the journey in 42 days. It took 99 days. Yet another coincidence with Amelia Earhart. At the inaugural meeting of the Women Pilots Association that she founded, there were 99 members present.
It's an extreme, you know, going from a situation where I certainly wasn't acknowledged, and I had a hell of a hard time even convincing people, you know, that what I was going to do, that I was actually going to do it, and actually to go from a situation where you're put down to where you suddenly become very much acknowledged and a heroine almost. It's bloody hard to take. It's, you know, it's a shock.